Today I fucked up by googling an old friend's name and finding out he's busted. Back in 2005, I met my friend Nick on Xbox Live as we both had an interest in pro wrestling. I was 15, he was 18. This turned into a friendship that lasted over a decade. I always found little things about him kind of weird. He was socially awkward, passive-aggressive, and even caught him catfishing a few times when we were younger, as he would make up these profiles using pics of models and pretend they were girls he was talking to. But I always kind of carried the notion that it was harmless, and I thought he eventually grew out of it. We played Xbox Live almost every night. Halo, Gears of War, watching WWE pay-per-views, sending each other memes, YouTube videos, behind-the-scenes news of wrestling. He even helped me open my first website as I was getting into journalism, and was nice enough to pay for most of it as a favor for being his friend for so many years. Fast forward to 2012, and he gets a girlfriend IRL, but one night when she's over, he starts saying, "Guys, she's over, please don't call me Nick. Call me Ian, okay?" This was weird, but eventually he says that he always used the name Nick online as an alias and never gave out his real name because of some shit that happened in college. I find this weird, but I've always had the belief that everyone is entitled to privacy online. And it's just a name, no biggie. Only it wasn't a name. Eventually, he adds me on his real profile, and he's not some tall, white jock. He's a dorky looking Asian guy. We get to talking and the cracks begin to show, and I start finding all these little inconsistency in the stories he would tell. The first was that he was a former player for the MLS Chicago Fire, and later on that story became that he was scouted by them, but an injury kept him from making the team. These inconsistencies continue to grow over the next few years, and instead of just cutting him off and being done, a curious part of my brain wants to keep digging. I get a little suspicious and start looking into him. In 2014, he gets engaged and things seem to be going great for him. From what I can tell, he's happy and they have a great relationship. Until 2016, when she suddenly leaves him, and he begins to paint her as this crazy psycho. To top it off, one day when we're chilling on Skype having a chat, he cuts me off. "What the F hash and percent? She just wiped my life savings account." I'm like, OMG. How much was in there? His response: over $100,000. Now I'm confused on how to feel. Do I feel angry that this girl potentially wiped my friend's account out? Or is this guy full of it? How the hell does someone just up and walk away with $100,000? This thought sits on my head for a while until I decided, screw it, I'm gonna message her. I contact her on Instagram DMs, and I begin to find out that not only was the $100,000 story a lie, but pretty much everything about the guy is a total fabrication. His job, where he's from, the house he lives in, the fact that he's adopted. The guy basically lives in a trailer in his foster parents' huge backyard, and his mom is the one who is well off, not him. She tells me stories of abuse, and how Ian would manipulate her, threaten her not to mention things to me. At one point during their relationship, her dad fell ill and she wanted to fly home to be with him. This infuriated Ian, and he hit her, and told her that he hoped her dad would die. What the hell? I'm stunned at this point. Short after, she tells me about times that he pulled a knife on her, and how he broke her foot with a Matt Cain collector's baseball bat. I'm scrolling through his Instagram a few days later, and what do I see posted? Him bragging about his Matt Cain baseball bat. Okay, her story is really checking out at this point. Now he's seeing another girl, and I decide to hit her up and talk. This is when it gets really sad to me. She's a single mom with 3 kids, and she has a restraining order against the father because of abuse. She has nothing and no one. So she comes to Ian, who is basically manipulating her and stringing her along. Her and I stay in contact for a while, and she's telling me all the dirt that's going on. Until Ian starts getting violent with the kids, and she decides it's time to bail. But when she does, Ian locks her out of his place and keeps all her stuff, her bed, her clothes, her PS4 and game, etc., and sells it all on eBay. I'm absolutely furious at this point and decided that I can't sit back and watch all this anymore. So I confront him about it, call him out on all this abuse and garbage, and try to be a good friend. Maybe he needs help, I don't know. that didn't work. The next day, he edits and photoshops a bunch of our conversations to make me look like a racist and homophobic to my friends and co-workers. And because this guy is so good at manipulating at this point, he's able to twist things that I have said in the past to make it look like it's all legit. My journalism career pretty much goes up in smoke then. He and I stopped talking in 2017. I've had no communication with him after I found out all that, and it coming back to bite me when I confronted him. Today I fucked up by googling his name. I'm talking to my fiance and on my phone just decide to google his name to see if I could find his Twitter account, see what kind of shenanigans he may be up to nowadays. The first result I get is this: oh my god. I keep reading and I am absolutely sick to my stomach. Cannot say that I'm shocked though, considering everything I found out about who he really is. I feel so many emotions right now. Hurt because I thought he was a friend so many years, sadness for the kid, regret for not calling him out sooner. I don't even know what to think right now, but I do know that I'm happy this piece of shit is likely going away for a long time. / too long didn't read. Today I fucked up by googling an old friend's name after calling him about in 2017 about things he was doing to people, and found out he was up to some pretty dark, disgusting things. Holy shit. I have a couple friends on Xbox Live who I've never met in person. I tell them bits about my life and they constantly don't believe me or try to call my bluff. Difference is, I'm not lying. I'm a working professional in NYC and I like to play video games. What's the big deal? I've always wondered about things like this, but have never encountered anyone online that I've felt inclined to not trust their words. This is by far way more extreme than I ever could imagine someone lying about their life. Dude needs help. And that's how I looked at it at first. Little fibs here and there out of insecurity and just wanting to impress people, especially because we were younger when all that was going on and I was more aware of it. Even the catfishing, it's weird and fucked up, but it ultimately doesn't really hurt anyone when he's just pretending to have a hot girlfriend. Dude, that's messed up. It's not your fault. If anything, you went out of your way to check up on his girlfriends. I had a friend I knew for at least 20 years, in person. We didn't meet online, disappear. Just fell off the earth. He'd helped me set up the network at work and we were having an issue, so I started looking for him. Found an article on Google about him being convicted of raping his daughter. He seemed like a great guy up until I saw the article. Later confirmed it by finding more articles. You never know with people. It's not your fault. Reading does things to people. Today I fucked up by trying to take my girlfriend to her favorite sushi place. This is my first post, sorry for any format issues. This happened about a month before COVID, just remembered the tale and thought I'd share. Bit of preface to the day of. My girlfriend frequented a sushi place nearby where she was a regular. She went to the restaurant on their opening day, and we had been going regularly since. It was an awesome hole in the wall, small place, and we loved it. Fast forward 7 years. By the time of the story, everyone that worked there was quite familiar with us. We had a regular table that they sat us at when it was open. Not that we cared about where we sat. It was good cheap food. They would start making our regular orders when we walked in. This place made us feel like we were at home. For a couple months prior to the incident, I had been on a diet, which was going great, but didn't allow rice, so no sushi rolls. She was super supportive and, while I encouraged her to eat what she wanted, she more or less ate the same as I did. This meant no more sushi place for us. Appreciation of how awesome my soul was, I decided I'd take her to our favorite place and just not eat. I promised to take her on Saturday afternoon. This was on a Wednesday that I promised her. Every day, she mentioned it again and told me how much she was looking forward to it, seeming more excited each time. By Saturday, she had come up with the scheme to not eat all day in order to prepare for all the sushi goodness. At this point, I should note that she is one who is the personification of hangry. If she skips a meal, she turns from cute into a crazed animal, so skipping breakfast and lunch seemed high risk to me. But screw it, this was me thanking her for being so supportive. She could do it her way. Just in case, I carried emergency trail mix and a granola bar all that Saturday. and the inner hangry beast nearly showed through a couple times as the clock ticked past noon. The granola bar in my backpack may have literally saved my life from a hangry loved one laying me low around 2 p.m. By 4 p.m., I could tell the temporary granola bar sanity had worn off, but she hung in there as we checked out a park nearby, planning to have this long anticipated meal at 6. By 5, she was nearly vibrating with excitement and short-tempered hunger, but, being eternally stubborn, refused to top up with some trail mix. I decide things might take a turn for the worst if I make her wait until 6, so we begin to make our way to the restaurant. As we rounded the corner, everything started to go wrong. I noticed that the sandwich board that this place had outside their door for 7 years was conspicuously missing. Walking nearer, it looked dark inside, and I got scared. She turned to me with soul-crushing desperation in her eyes and whimpered, "They should be open today." We approached the front door and half of the furniture was missing, the other half piled in a corner. Handshaking with low blood sugar, she pointed at a notice on the glass door, "Property foreclosed for non-payment." They weren't just closed, they were closed. She broke down sobbing on the sidewalk, inconsolable. After 10 minutes or so, I managed to steer her into the ramen place next door. We got some odd looks as the hostess seated us, her still holding back tears. A little while later, she sat, having eaten a bit, and looked up from her bowl at me, face filled with dread and regret. "Do you think they had to close because we stopped going?" She started crying into her bowl of ramen. I should have stifled the laugh better, but a little snort slipped out. There she was, my usually dignified, composed, rational girlfriend, absolutely broken by a restaurant closure. The only other time I'd seen her this sad was when her family dog died. It just hit me as comical at a very wrong moment. I spent the remainder of that night consoling her as she mourned and the Sunday apologizing for laughing. Looking back, we both laugh about her hangry episodes, but some good advice is not to mess with a hungry so's meal. Too long didn't read : promised girlfriend her favorite meal from her favorite restaurant as a thank you. She didn't eat all day so she could fill up on sushi. We arrived, and the restaurant was permanently closed. She broke down in tears. I involuntarily laughed at a crazy situation. Impressed, cool face, good read, and can say I have been there before on both sides of the narrative. My favorite Chinese place closed, and it wasn't so much the food but just the overall welcome feeling I had when I would go there. Felt like mom had closed her kitchen. Hope you also can recoup. Best wishes. She suffered sushi sadness syndrome. SSS is a very serious condition. One day, we'll find a cure. Allow me to introduce you to sashimi. Seriously though, I do understand her pain. We had a wonderful little Middle Eastern place that we always went to. Then a new open-air shopping district opened up and it had at least a couple of dozen restaurants that we wanted to try out. And we did. When we went back to our wonderful little Middle Eastern place, it had shut down. It seems like their entire clientele had the same behavior as us and they couldn't survive the impact. We still miss it. My favorite Chinese restaurant closed temporarily during lockdown to put up barriers. Except I didn't know it was temporary. I was distraught thinking they had closed forever. Hard times without comfort food equals terrible times. Today I fucked up by submitting gay erotic fanfic instead of my assignment. Now, obligatory didn't happen today, but I recently was reminded of it, although I'm pretty sure I blocked this particular memory. Back when I, 17F, was a lonely depressed teenager, one of my only forms of comfort was the fandom life. It was a particular TV show that didn't have all too many teenage fans. I was one of the youngest fans. Most fans were in their mid-40s to 50s, and had an obsession with fanfics, in particular, erotic ones. This was my first introduction to it. Now, while the main characters were straight, a large percentage of the fans fantasized about them being a couple because of their great on-screen chemistry. As a budding writer, I too decided to not just read these fanfics, but that it was time I started writing them. I wrote quite a few, and was getting quite some traction on them. So, I buckled down and wrote even more. Now it's important to note that some, Not all of these fanfics were gay erotica. Please note that I was a lonely horny virgin of a teenager that hadn't even had my first kiss at this point. Looking back, I'm not sure how I wrote gay erotica fanfic because I didn't really know how homosexual intercourse worked and didn't watch gay porn. This is where the FU happens. Since I was a high school student at the time, preparing for exams and the tedious amounts of assignments we had, it wasn't out of the norm for me to be up till 2 or 3 a.m. still doing assignments. This particular day, I had pulled an all-nighter the day before, and was still up past midnight the next day. I finished my assignment and had to email it to my teacher. In my sleep-deprived state, instead of attaching my assignment, I handed in the fanfic, which was conveniently titled fanfic _my name. I closed my laptop and went to bed. Next morning I see an email notification from my teacher. "Hi op, nice story and interesting dynamic, but are you sure you sent it to the right person?" At that moment, I felt my soul leave my body and die. I had homeroom with him in 30 minutes. I almost faked being sick, but I went anyway. I didn't make eye contact with him for the rest of the year. He was also a really nice, chill teacher and we used to have nice discussions, but after that FU I couldn't face him anymore. TL, doctor, accidentally sent in gay erotic fanfic I wrote instead of my assignment. You got lucky, it was a cool teacher. Hate to think how much trouble you could have gotten in since it was high school. Yeah, I'm so thankful he never got me in trouble or mentioned it to me IRL. You still got that fanfic? Asking for me and the boys. Seconding this, please deliver op. Please tell me it was Star Trek lol. I need to know the show. Description strikes me as Star Trek. Most fans were in their mid-40s to 50s. Now you made me imagine a super campy version of M.A.S.H.